Welcome to The Ripple, where extraordinary women executives share their turning points, growing pains, breakthroughs, and triumphs to help you show up with confidence. I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, and today we're joined by the purposeful Nadia Milani. She's the VP of Marketing at FundThrough. She's one of Adobe's Fearless 50, Sales Intel's top 100 women in B2B SaaS, and she's a founding member of MarketingOps.com. Today, she's joining us to talk about how intention shaped her job search and her career. Nadia, thank you so much for joining us. We're so pleased to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. It's one of my first podcasts I've done in a while. So thank you. Thanks
Well,
for
and
the.
you're one of our first guests, so it works both ways.
Oh, I'm so happy. I love being one of the first guests. I really do. I've been a first guest for a number of podcasts. So I love that.
Well, and we have a lot to celebrate. In addition to that, you have a new role with FundThrough as their VP of Marketing. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think this is the first podcast I'm doing as the new VP of marketing at FundThrough. So super excited. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to hear what excites you about this transition in your career.
I'm really excited about this role for a couple of reasons. One is that it's bringing me to the roots of marketing. So it's kind of like a smaller team. I came from a role that had we were building a team, we were scale up, things were just moving really, really, really fast. And now I'm able to not really slow it down because it's going to be definitely be busier, but just be able to kind of roll up my sleeves, get in there, test, just to, get really into the craft of marketing. And that's what I'm really excited about.
Did you feel like you had stepped away from that in the previous roles?
So, you know, when I look back in the last 10 years, it's been almost autopilot in some ways. So it's been very, I have a job and then I'm there for 2, 3 years and then recruiter comes, next role, bigger salary, I'll go for that role. And then 2, 3 years, bigger role, bigger salary. And it's been like that for about 4 roles. And, I started to realize that I wasn't actually being very intentional about what it is that I wanted out of my career. It just became kind of like somebody would come to me or at a certain time and they would kind of have certain things that I wanted to do. I know that's very general. The salary would be more, the title would be better. And I would think, I'm just going to take it. And didn't really think through the decision of why am I going to take this? What does this company stand for? What is the mission? What is the culture? What is it aligned to what I need right now in my life and in my career? And I think for the first time in a long time, I really started to reflect about what is it that I really want right now? What are the questions that I need to ask myself in order to get the role that I really want to do versus passively just taking on a role because it kind of somewhat was brought to me at the right time, but
Yeah.
potentially, but not really, checking the boxes of what I actually really want. So for me, at this particular role, it was more about getting back to the basics, being at a company that had great culture, that had a great team, that was building a product that I believed in, solving a problem that I believe in. And really it was about the mission more so than ever before.
Yeah, I think that is relatable to a lot of people. I know, especially in the marketing world, there are these cycles that are just happening all the time. Like 10 years are not very long, even at the executive suite level. And it's interesting just because the job market is so tough for people at every level right now. I can imagine how you think it takes so much more work to get a position. I'm not going to do it for nothing. I'm going to make sure I'm really doing the right thing because I don't want to keep doing this work over and over again. I want to land someplace good after all of this work, right?
Absolutely. So it's August 2024. And, the job market right now is, I personally have never seen anything like it from a marketing perspective, like in terms of there's not many roles out there from a director level up. The ones that are there, like there's 300 people that are applying. Even being in interview processes myself over the last little bit, it's very competitive. And I'm hearing that from a lot of different people. I have open office hours on Fridays where I do free mentorship for really anyone. There's no rules except no pitching. That's my only rule. No pitching on
That's a
Friday.
good rule, honestly.
Yeah, but so I've met with, managers and entry level and executives and directors and, most of the conversations since December have been, "I'm looking for a job," 1, and I can't find one, and it's been, like, very, very difficult. Or second is that I'm currently in a role and it's just the environment is so toxic. And so I don't know if it's like the employer market and everyone knows it. And I think just dynamics have changed, but also like the macroeconomic situation where there's just not a lot out there. So people are staying at companies maybe for longer than they typically would have, knowing that it's not really great out there. So and it's really easy in this type of market to be non-intentional because if you're looking for a job, you might be thinking, "I'm just gonna take anything, like, I'll just take anything." Because
Scarcity mindset is real.
I just yeah, like, I'll just take it, and that's okay. Like, that's absolutely okay if that's the situation you're in. But what I did notice in my career is that when you're really intentional about what it is you want, what you really, really want today, what's gonna happen is you let out a vibe of, like, "I really want this," and you're going to let out a vibe of, like, I'm not just doing this because I'm really desperate. I actually have the skills. I really, really want it." And there's just something that happens where it'll connect you to the right role. I do believe, if you're really intentional, really want it, you're strategic about what you want, you build like a case for why you want it, and it just like your whole vibe is about wanting that particular role. So I think doing that upfront work, asking yourself the right questions, what do I really, really want is very important.
Was there a specific moment when you realized, wow, my career path hasn't been the most intentional and I need to get this on the right track? Like, what was that light bulb moment?
Yeah, I've had a few couple of like moments like that in my career. So one I will it was actually earlier in my career, and I thought the role that I was in was like perfect role. And because everyone, when you start, it's like amazing. And it's like, it's the honeymoon phase and you're just like, "Ah, love this." But I never really, did a lot of research about where I was working or with the culture or what it was, like what was the type of, you know, culture wise, like were the real expectations of that role. And, you know, what was actually happening at the company at the time, like what stage were they at? So I kinda just, like, blindly just accepted the role, and at the time, I was a mom. I was a really, really young mom. So I had, a one-year-old, and it was a very, very high intensity culture, and there were a lot of really amazing things that I was able to do at that company. I was able to travel and I was able to work with some really amazing, smart, innovative people and learned a ton. But at the time, I don't think it was really the right fit. Like I was, the early mom, young mom. I was traveling a ton. Like I was going all over the world every like month.
That's a hard combination.
It's a hard combination, right? And I thought, but like everyone at the beginning, things like traveling is so glamorous, and I was able to go to France, and I was able to go here, and I was able to go there, and New York, and I think LA. I think I actually canceled the LA trip, so I was like, I'm so tired. But so it's really again about like what is it that I want at this time? Where am I in my life, and what matters to me today? So is family a really important thing for me right now? Is it a breadwinner situation? Like maybe your partner just lost their job and they're having a hard time, so you have to really kind of ask yourself, what is it that I again really want out of my whole entire life? If I'm a working mom with 3 children, I'm probably going to want to have something that's remote. Like I'm not going to want to go into the office. If it's an office situation or in office, which I am seeing a lot more of out there, like by those, I mean, let's just say even 2 years ago, everything was remote, or we just started to see hybrid pop up about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, but in office is like a part of a lot of the expectations of jobs. Is that gonna actually work for me?
Becoming a mother seems like one of those moments in a career where it becomes very crystal clear how the culture at a company works and whether or not it works for you as a mother. What was your experience of that, and how do you determine when you're in the interview process if a culture is going to be amenable to the flexibility it takes to be a mother?
Actually, that's such an amazing question. And sometimes, again, like I'm guilty of this. Like I'm in a interview process. Things are really going well, and it's checking off all the boxes. And but like I kind of sense some like red flags and certain things. but I'm kind of like, I'll figure it out when I'm there. But you know what? Sometimes those red flags you cannot figure out. And one thing I will say is culture is something that you can sometimes have a big impact as a leader at the organization. But, and I mean, there's also the adage of like everyone affects culture, like
Right.
any, any part of the organization at any level. But if there's like a red flag in the interview process, it most likely will manifest or you'll see it later. So don't ignore those red flags. As a mom, culture is very, very important. So how many women in the executives, how many women on the board level, how many female managers, is that really important to their culture? One thing that a lot of people I'm surprised still don't do, and this is a very much of a generalization. I've not done any statistical reporting on
Sure,
this.
that's
But
okay.
just anecdotally, I've just had conversations a lot of the times that in my open office Fridays, I will ask people that are looking for jobs or in the interview process, have you checked Glassdoor? Like, have you checked Glassdoor? And I'm telling you, Glassdoor rarely lies. Yes, there's like one person that might be a rate and might go off on a tangent, but if you're seeing consistently like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 1 star, 5 star, 5 star, 4 star, 1 star, 1 star.
Right. Well, you know when those 5 stars are written by HR too. You can tell.
You gotta listen. You gotta look at that. Like, if there's a 48% CEO rate approval rating and there's like 100, reviews, you do need to take that seriously, even though the interview process went pretty well. We wanna look at that and maybe also just ask and pick on some of those questions or some of the things that you have seen on in Glassdoor. They rarely, rarely lie. The other thing I do as well now, this is much later in my career, because I've had, I have had certain work environments where I'm like, "Oh, I could have probably done some more research." Look at your role, like, look who's been in that role previously on LinkedIn. Have they been there for a long time? Have they been there for a little not a long time? I say this for director level and VP level especially, because if you are a VP and the last person that was there was only there for 6 months, and the other person before that was only there for 1 year, and the other person in a director level was only there's a problem, and you probably won't be able to fix it. It's absolutely outside your control, and that's usually a cultural thing.
You talk about moving through this next step in your career with intention. I'm curious what it was like going through the interview process during a time of economic uncertainty when you are that liability as a marketer. Could you feel that from
Oh,
companies?
100%. So one thing I've noticed, there's definitely this narrative around risk, and so what I'm noticing is that companies, specifically in B2B SaaS and tech, are looking for leaders who've done that exact thing. So they want to see somebody who's grown the company from 5 million to 20 million or 20 million to 100 million. They've done it before in that industry, within that segment. They are very specific because of the liability and risk. So because if they hire somebody who's hasn't quite done it or has done it, at a different industry, or if they've done it with a different within the different revenue threshold, it's too much risk. So that's how I'm seeing it play out in interviews, and I've heard this across other director level roles and those who are interviewing for VP level roles, and those who are currently at companies. I'm hearing a lot of that as well. Small, tiny budgets, small teams,
But
and
big
this
results. We need big
yeah,
results though.
exactly. The infamous, do more with absolute less. So a lot that's absolutely playing out right now in most companies, and that's tough. It is tough, but it's also opportunity. Like I will say, it is an opportunity to think differently, be more creative. For me, it's definitely I'm going to be working with a very small team. It's me rolling up my sleeves, getting in the weeds, which I've always done. Like I've always been kind of like a marketer who, even at the VP level, who will write emails. I'll like build email campaigns. I'll write copy. I'll, put together creative brief if I have to. But you're right. Like everyone has to have realistic expectations. We're not going to grow by 40% if we have a 1 or 2 person marketing team. And if you can, I mean, Ahrefs did it. Like, kudos to them.
That's the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. And you have to have an exceptional product that solves like an exceptional problem that, then you can maybe get away with like, that 1 or 2 mark. marketing team. So yeah, it's tough out there. So I think that it's really important again to be resilient. I don't think I actually said this the first time I'm saying this. So it's not again. I'm just saying you need to be resilient. Number one, it's a time of resiliency for marketers. And I would say even I would even say for sales people, for everyone.
It's
It's
for everyone.
for everyone. It's about being resilient. It's tough out there. Things are not, things aren't growing as crazy as they were back in the day for most marketers. And it's about kind of getting through that. It's about getting through that and still trying to feel inspired.
And again, we know what that looks like from the marketing and sales side, but I think that every role has its own version of that. Everybody feels this moment in their own way. My last question to you, I'd love to hear your perspective on, when we're in a time of economic uncertainty and we feel employers taking this position of risk avoidance, right? And we feel that when we're applying for jobs and trying to make shifts or just grow and get a promotion, those kinds of things. How do we need to change our mindset to really take care of ourselves and prioritize ourselves in that process rather than letting those red flags kind of fly by like, "Oh, I'll deal with it. Oh, I'll forget about it. Oh, I just have to keep moving forward."
So one is that, yeah, resiliency is key. How does resilience how does being resilient look like to you? So for me, it's about taking care of myself. So I have a conversation with myself. It's like, okay, what do you need today? Like, what can I do for myself? Like, so for me, it's working out. I mean, I haven't been great at that and consistent. Anyone
We're all
who's
doing our best.
Anyone who's talked to me recently knows that I'm falling off the workout wagon, but I'm trying to get back on. But it's spending time with my family, it's being in awe, like being going out for walks, it's going out. I visited my sister in, Vancouver, British Columbia just recently and was in awe of all the mountains. I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen these mountains in a long time." I'm like, "Feels good." And it's having that plan. So back to my initial, it's about being intentional. It's asking yourself, all those questions, reflect. These are really great periods of time to reflect about what's really important to me right now, for example. So is it balance? Is it salary? Is it career progression? Or is it security? I mean, we can't always like, get job security. What are my non-negotiables? So if you're currently in an interview process, you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually, it's happening and you get the offer, is what are your non-negotiables? Like respectful work environment? Is it picking up my kids 3:30 every single day? Like I really, really want to do that. Is it, no emails after 6 p.m. and having boundaries around your work environment? And then what are my career goals? Like this is really important because, you kind of like I said it earlier in the conversation, I was kind of an autopilot, just taking the next big role. Like, you know, but is it being a CMO? Like, do I want to be a CMO or do I want to have a fractional business at one time and just like be able to help many different companies? And then it's like speaking to people who are doing the thing. So like find people that you could speak to either in communities, there's a bunch of them that I could share, for a fractional business, find a fractional CMO, ask them for some time. Maybe they might ask you to pay for the time. I'm not sure. Hopefully you'll find one that doesn't. And just say, how is it running your business? How did you do it? How long did it take you to do it? And just get inspired by those conversations and keep doing the things that make you happy. Maybe that's like playing piano and maybe it's like playing the guitar and like learning how to play an instrument. So it's doing the things that you also like doing while you're doing the things that you have to do, like find this job potentially for the interim. So a little bit of both. Don't just focus on this like one thing that seems really hard right now. Kind of like do the other things that are if you make you feel inspired, make you feel like you have more direction, make you feel like you are leading your life with intention, even though it feels really hard right
The idea of, like, bringing that balance to your life, continuing to exercise your idea of yourself as a whole person and not reducing yourself down to a job hunt or a
Yeah, it's like, I'm
promotion.
not getting the job or I'm not getting the, and I'm not minimizing how stressful that can be because it can be very stressful, especially I know I've heard circumstances where 2 people in the family have lost their income their jobs and their incomes, and things are getting really tough. So, I'm not minimizing that's all really, really hard, but this too shall pass. Like, this is one thing and it's so hard because you think like you're in the abyss and it's like, "Oh, this is so hard, and why aren't things clicking, and why aren't things working?" But, like, just know that in a year, things will be different. Like you will either get the job or you will start the fractional gig or you will, your partner will find the job or you will find a total different pivot, like working as a teacher somewhere. I'm not sure what that is, but that's the thing, like, it's hard right now, but things will always change and you will be in a different circumstance. It's just feeling really hard right now.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your time and everything that you've learned with us. I think so many people are going to relate to it. It was wonderful talking to you, Nadia.
I had such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Ashley. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me or wants to get a time slot in my open Fridays, just DM me on LinkedIn. Nadia Milani. I've been very quiet lately, so I've been very like a constant publisher on LinkedIn. I have been a little quiet, but I will be back. We'll be back soon. Just have been busy.
Yeah, you're coming out of your cocoon.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Thank you so much, Ashley. It's been great.
Before we end the episode, we want to take a moment to reflect with you, our thoughtful listeners, about what Nadia's story means to you. What are some red flags you could be ignoring? What are the needs you're prioritizing most right now? If today's show inspired you, tell us. Send an email or voice memo to hello@wednesdaywomen.org. Or keep the ripple going by giving us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. This podcast is brought to you by Wednesday Women, an organization dedicated to increasing the visibility of women executive leaders. Learn more at wednesdaywomen.org. Thank you to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood. Again, I'm your host, Ashley Lobbs, hoping you'll keep the ripple going. Until next time.